going to start out with the AL East. Um, at my number five spot here, I have the Tampa Bay Rays.
Agreed.
Obviously the whole Wander Franco situation, not in Tampa Bay anymore, and then just really it's a young group of guys that really don't have the experience yet, and I just think that they will not, do much.
They only have one. Excuse me. They only have one player. I think. Well, they have several, but the one that might stand out is that new shortstop if they give him the opportunity, Carson Williams, and we'll talk more about that at the end. But yeah, I agree with you. The Rays are going to be in the bottom.
And my number four spot for this division is the Toronto Blue Jays. Obviously, they were one of the teams going for Roki Sasaki, and they didn't get him. They did sign in the later weeks Max Scherzer to that 1 year, $15.5 million deal.
That's your guy.
Yep, love him. So I just think the same thing.
He's my age, though, right? He's 40.
Yeah. He I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. He'll still have a good season.
Yeah.
I hope Bobby Witt bounces back.
Well, Vladdy will. You mean? Oh gosh, I can't think of Bo Bichette. There it is. But Vladdy's going to have a good year because he's didn't sign an extension with them, so he's going to try to prove to everybody, like, hey, come get me type thing. So yeah, I agree. I think the Blue Jays finished fourth as well.
Yep. Moving on to my number three is the Baltimore Orioles here. They obviously lost Corbin Burns, which was a big loss. They signed that guy from Japan who's like 35. I think they overpaid him. Never really pitched in the MLB.
Yeah, I agree. And they got Eflin back. He's healthy again. So if they can, the thing with the Orioles is if they can hit. So if they can score 8-9 runs a game, they should be okay. And that's what they typically have done. So yeah.
My number two on the Boston Red Sox, we go back to these people they signed with Bregman, Aroldis Chapman. We'll see what he can do, and then obviously the Garrett Crochet trade. I think that help this team out a lot.
So I've only differed with you. I have the Yankees finishing second. You have them finishing first. I have the Red Sox winning that division, and I think it's because of what the Red Sox did in the offseason, because they haven't been significant in a couple of years. Yankees went to the World Series last year, and I have the Orioles and Yankees getting the wild card with the Red Sox winning the division. So,
moving on to the AL Central, my number five is the Chicago White Sox. Nothing to talk about here. I mean, just awful.
Agreed.
I hope Luis Robert has a great year, but awful.
Yeah.
Number four, the Minnesota Twins. I don't think they did enough, in the off season. I hope.
Yeah, they're trying to recreate the magic from last year. I agree. Yep.
Number three, the Cleveland Guardians. I just don't know how I feel about their chances.
Again, they're one of those teams that kind of hang around. You never know what they're going to do at the deadline. Are they going to be sellers? Are they going to be buyers? And I see you have the record there, splitting at 81-81. I agree. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do. They could be hanging around at the end, and then all of a sudden in September, we're like, oh my goodness, we're talking about the Guardians potentially making the postseason. Or they could be hanging around, and in July, it's like, nope, they're done. So, yeah, I think that's well assessed and where they should be.
My number two for this division is the Detroit Tigers. Obviously, Tarek Skubal is great, and then they got Gleyber Torres from the Yankees.
Yep.
And then I just hope Javi Baez has a good year. It's really not been that good for a while for him.
So I flip-flopped. I have the Tigers actually winning and the Royals finishing second, but it's going to be tight. I think it'll come down to the last week for those two. And I have the Royals winning the wild card, or being awarded that wild card spot, that final one. But I think the Tigers, they're young. They're just young. They showed it last year with that last run they had in August. I feel like they don't know any better, and they're going to just go out and play baseball and have fun. And they'll be there at the end. So.
Yep. For my AL West, I have the Los Angeles Angels. You can't win without going and getting players. Really.
The only thing I'll say is Rendon might be healthy. He's already had surgery, but they're saying he could play maybe 2/3 of the season. Although ever since he came from the Nationals, he's not played a full season. So we'll see. I mean, this fingers crossed for Angels fans, but if he's healthy and you compare him with Trout, he might win some games. You never know.
My number 4 is the Oakland Athletics. Last year was a down year, obviously, losing record. But they actually, they went and got Luis Severino, who's 50-50. Jose Leclerc, once again, then they have young players like second baseman Zach Geloff.
Local.
Yep. Local. I think, they just have to do a little more and they can be there.
I agree. I agree with you on this too. Yep.
And then number 3 are the Houston Astros. They did get Christian Walker on a 3-year deal, but then once again they traded Kyle Tucker, traded Ryan Presley,
and they lost Bregman. That's big 3.
So I just think that they're not.
I don't think they're gonna have enough.
I don't either.
Yep.
My number 2 are the Seattle Mariners. Once again, they're just one of those teams that are not. They're young too.
Yeah.
They're just there.
No, I agree with you. I think I think you're spot on. I think the Mariners finished second, and I think the Rangers finished first. Rangers are bouncing back from the World Series hangover, and I think they're going to have another with Seager and some of those other guys in the lineup. I think they're going to have a fantastic year. So,
moving on to our next division here, the NL East. My number 5. I have Miami Marlins. They're just not that good of a.
Nah, they can't sustain. Especially losing Jazz Chisholm and some other.
Then my number 4 is the Washington Nationals. Thought about putting them at 3 and maybe putting the Phillies at 4, but I don't know.
Was it because you felt like, oh my goodness, I used to be a Nats fan? Like I just okay.
Was not that at all.
Okay.
Young people on that team like James Wood, young starting pitching.
That shortstop, C.J. Abrams.
Yep. Moving on to my number 3 are the New York Mets.
I agree with you. I think they get a wild card though.
Yep.
Okay.
Obviously Soto, signing with them on that massive deal, but it's going to come down to them is if they can stay healthy.
Agreed.
If all those players can stay healthy, I think they get the wild card.
I agree.
My number 2, the Atlanta Braves. I have them finishing second because Spencer Strider is coming back.
Yeah, that's huge.
Acuna is coming back.
Yeah, it's huge. Yep.
I think that those are the main pieces why.
And Chris Sale, being Chris Sale. I mean, look what they did last year without those two.
Yep. And my number 1 is the Philadelphia Phillies.
That's smart. I'm glad you wised up on that one.
I just think
they're number 2 ranked team in baseball right now. I mean, you can't go against it. So
they're good baseball.
We'll slug that out at the end too. So don't worry.
Moving on to our next division, the NL Central. The St. Louis Cardinals is my number 5 because, like you said, Paul Goldschmidt is older, but he was a big part of that team.
Yeah, he was. He was a leader of that team.
Yeah.
I think a little prediction here, a little side note. I think the Cardinals are dead, and they'll trade Nolan Arenado by the deadline, and I wouldn't be shocked to see him in red pinstripes and Harper move back out to the outfield, and they put Bohm over at first. So you heard it here first.
Okay. Number 4 in this division, the Pittsburgh Pirates. Obviously, young talent and Paul Skeens. But what are they doing? In the offseason.
Correct. I mean, that's the thing. Like I joke all the time with people that want to talk about the Pirates. Skeens will, if they go to the World Series, they lose in 7 games because Skeens only pitched 3 times. So what else have they done? And I actually have the Pirates finishing above the Reds just because I think Skeens might give them that extra oomph. But you never know. I think those two are a toss-up. And I think you have kind of similar records there too. So,
and my 3, the Cincinnati Reds, they traded for Gavin Lux from the Los Angeles Dodgers. And they have Ellie De La Cruz, wonderful guy there, and Hunter Green.
And a new manager. You can't Francona, I'm telling you, you can't sleep on him.
My 2 is the Milwaukee Brewers. They traded Devin Williams away. I think ever since their manager went to the Cubs, I just don't think they've not been the same. So what do you?
I agree. I have the Brewers at 2, and I agree with you. The Cubs at 1. My only thing is if the Brewers are in it at the deadline, do they try, since they lost that player you just named, do they go and get somebody at the deadline to help them get over that?
I think you have to.
I would agree. Yep.
And my one is the Chicago Cubs. Kyle Tucker and Ryan Presley and Ryan Brazier from the Dodgers.
Don't forget about Justin Turner.
And Justin Turner. Yep. Moving on to our next division, the NL West.
Colorado Rockies.
At my 5 is the Colorado Rockies. They're just not a team that is good. They don't. It's just they're just not.
Just leave them out there in Denver. Let's not talk about them. Right?
Number 4 is the Arizona Diamondbacks. Okay. I have absolutely, even though we talked about they had a great offseason, I have no faith that the Diamondbacks will do anything good this season. Nothing to talk about there. And then number 3, the San Francisco Giants. I think Logan Webb, he'll lead the pitching staff, but then also they
just lost Blake Snell when they just lost to the Dodgers.
Yeah, but I mean they also signed a 42-year-old Justin Verlander. See what he can do. And then they signed Willie Adames in free agency. So I think they will top the Diamondbacks. My 2 is the San Diego Padres. I think
I think they get the wild card.
Yeah, I think like you said earlier, with Machado, Tatis, and just these guys, Dylan Cease, all these guys are still going to lead this team. Yeah. Even though they lost some key players.
I agree. I think Padres are going to be solid. I think they're going to be good.
And my number 1 is the Los Angeles Dodgers.
I see that. I'm shocked you don't have them 162-0.
With 110 wins.
That's a lot.
That is.
I mean, I just wish you'd be serious on that one. I see him between 95 and 100 wins, maybe 102, but I mean, 110, that's a lot. I mean, if they're up that much in the division, they're going to stop playing in September anyway. So,
moving on here. And now we will move on to our World Series predictions for 2025. For the AL Championship Series here, I have the Yankees and Tigers. I think the Yankees win in 7 games. And then for my NL, I have the Phillies and Dodgers in the National League Championship game, and I have the Dodgers winning the Phillies in 6 games. Okay. What do you think? You think something different?
Of course. So for the American League, I actually think it's going to be the Red Sox and Orioles in the ALCS. And the reason being, I think the Red Sox are going to ride Bregman, Devers, Bogarts, Duran, along with a healthy maybe Trevor Story and Casas, along with the Crochet, Bueller. It's going to be a tough team to face in the postseason. I think the Red Sox take them in 7, so I think it's going to be the Red Sox. And then over on the other side, I agree with you, NLCS, Dodgers and Phillies. They're too good teams to not be there. I think the window's slowly closing on the Bryce Harpers, the Trey Turners, the JT Remutos to win a World Series. So I think there's a sense of urgency there this year. However, I think the Phillies finally figured it out, especially when playing the Dodgers. I think last year we were 5-1 against you guys in the regular season. So, that's not necessarily going to be true for this year, but I think the Phillies take it in 7. I remember in 2008, that great run that the Phillies had, and they smoked LA in LA. It was great. Matt Stayer's home run, shot her around the world type thing, and we closed it out. So I think it's going to be something similar to that 2008 World Series when I think the Phillies win in 7 games. I will admit the Dodgers probably have a better team, but you also have to admit it's extremely hard to play in Philly. And I know, your joke alluded to not having that earlier, but it's extremely hard to play in Philly. So I think it'll be a Red Sox and Phillies World Series.
If the Phillies do win against the Dodgers, I will say it's about time because.
Okay.
Moving on to our awards here, predictions. My AL MVP is Aaron Judge. I think just what he's done in years past just shows that he will win the MVP again. I think just MVP. And then for my Cy Young, I have Max Fried from the New York Yankees. I think he signed a $210 million deal, but I think he'll be the ace of the staff this year. I don't think Garrett Cole will. I think Max Fried will.
Okay.
Obviously, it's dependent on what happens in the later days here with Garrett Cole's elbow injury. My rookie of the year is Jason Dominguez. Um, I think for the Yankees, there has been some defensive struggles early on in spring training so far, but I think right now he is my rookie of the year favorite. Moving on to my NL MVP, I have Mookie Betts.
Again, not even the best player on his own team.
But I have him as my MVP.
Okay.
And the reason why is because you look at it, he was hurt last year with his wrist injury. Mm-hmm. He came back and still put up insane numbers.
Okay. All right.
My NL Cy Young is Shota Imanaga of the Cubs. Great year last year. I think even better this year.
He did. He played very well.
And my NL Rookie of the Year is of the Los Angeles Dodgers, Roki Sasaki.
It's a recurring theme. More Dodgers.
I mean that.
So, AL MVP, I think Bobby Witt Jr. is going to get it. I think he's too good of a player not to. His stats were off the charts last year. He hit over 330. I think he does that again this year, maybe even a little higher. I think he has more power this year in that lineup. I'd like to see him win that. I think he's a phenomenal player defensively as well, so maybe pair that with a Gold Glove over there at third base. The AL Cy Young for me is Garrett Crochet from the Red Sox. I think just getting out of Chicago and being able to pitch in Boston and have what he has around him, he's going to be locked in all season. And I think the AL, these teams they're probably fearful of that. I think he's a phenomenal player. And then my rookie of the year, I had mentioned him earlier. I think Carson Williams for the Rays at shortstop. He's number 4 prospect in Major League Baseball right now. I just think he's going to turn it up and have a pretty good year and get some serious looks as rookie of the year. NL MVP, I'm going to go with, this pains me to say this, but I'm going to go with Juan Soto. I think he's destined to have a great year. He hits well at Citi Field. He always has throughout his entire career. I think going there and playing 81 games there is going to benefit him. I just think he hits well there. I finally think this is the year with a Cy Young that Zach Wheeler comes through. He's finished second or in the top 5 in the Cy Young voting every year he's been in Philadelphia. I truly think that he's going to get it this year. I think he's going to show up and he's going to turn out. And then the NL Rookie of the Year for me is, I can't believe you overlooked him, is Dylan Cruz. Nationals outfielder, number 1 prospect in all Major League Baseball. I think he's too good of a player not to be Rookie of the Year.
We'll see. I want to go back to you said your MVP was Juan Soto. Mm-hmm. That would not be good for you.
I agree.
Just want to let you know that.
But we faced MVPs before, Ronald Acuna, and we took care of them in the playoffs.
And never won the World Series, so
that is true.
Happens. Dodgers, they faced MVPs this past year, won the World Series, so
that is true.
Just comparing here.
That is true. Right? Yep.
All right. And that will end our podcast here today. Dr. Bliley, Coach Mike DeMay, thank you.
Thanks for having me on, bud.
Great episode.
It was an honor to be here. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.